The moment you step into the trench, it hits you. The smell. It's not one thing, but everything rotten and unholy fused together. The stench of unwashed bodies, rotting food, decaying flesh, and wet earth that never dries. The air is heavy, damp, and clings to your lungs. The mud beneath your boots isn't just mud. It's a mixture of rainwater, gunpowder residue, and the filth of hundreds of men packed into a narrow strip of earth. Every breath feels like you're inhaling fear itself. You tell yourself you'll get used to it, but deep down you know the smell will follow you for the rest of your life. Before you can gather your thoughts, the ground trembles under your feet. Somewhere ahead, artillery shells slam into the earth, throwing up fountains of dirt and debris. Even when the blasts are far away, the vibrations shudder through the trench walls and into your bones. You quickly realize there's no such thing as safety here, just varying degrees of danger. The men around you move with a tired efficiency, stepping over puddles that look like they've been there since the dawn of time. A rat the size of a cat scurries past, bold as anything, its beady eyes glinting in the dim light. No one reacts. Rats own these trenches as much as the soldiers do. Morning comes in the most unceremonious way possible, a low voice calling for a stand to. It's still dark, but you scramble to your feet like everyone else. The rule is simple. Before sunrise and at sunset, every soldier must be on high alert. These are the times most likely for an enemy attack. You grip your rifle. Your fingers stiff from the cold. Around you, men yawn, cough, and mutter under their breath. No one speaks loudly. Sound carries easily in the quiet of dawn, and the enemy might be listening. You sip what passes for tea, lukewarm and tasting faintly of mud from an unwashed tin cup, but it's something warm in your belly. Then you check your rifle in near total darkness, feeling along the barrel, making sure it's clean and ready. The danger here isn't always obvious. Some days you'll go hours without hearing a single shot, but then, without warning, a sniper takes a man's head clean off as he peeks over the top, or an artillery shell lands directly on a section of trench, splintering with supports, filling the air with choking dust, and leaving a bloody mess where someone had been standing just seconds earlier. There's no time to dwell on it. You learn quickly that in the trenches, death isn't an event. It's a constant presence, lurking just beyond the lip of the earthworks. Food is less about taste and more about endurance. Breakfast is likely bully beef from a tin, salty, greasy, and so dense it sits in your stomach like a stone. If you're lucky, you'll get hard biscuits, though they're so tough you have to soak them in tea to soften them enough to chew. You eat quickly, not because you're in a hurry, but because you don't want to think about what you're putting into your mouth. Some men guard their chocolate rations as if they were gold, trading them for cigarettes or even dry socks. Here, a pair of clean, warm socks can be more valuable than any weapon. And then there's no man's land, that stretch of desolate ground between your trench and the enemy's. It's littered with barbed wire, cratered from shell fire, and scattered with the bodies of soldiers from both sides, some weeks or months old. The thought of going out there makes your stomach knot, but sometimes you're ordered to patrol it at night, moving slowly. You step over twisted wire, your boots sinking into the muck, all the while pray you don't stumble over a corpse or trip and give away your position. The moonlight is both your enemy and your guide. Too much of it and you're exposed, too little and you can't see where you're going. You never forget the sound of a bullet whipping past your ear in the dark. Rain is relentless. It fills the trench until you're standing ankle deep, or worse, in freezing brown water. Some men are stuck like that for days. The skin on your feet turns pale, wrinkled, and numb, a condition they call trench foot. If left untreated, the skin begins to rot. You've seen men carried away because of it, their boots still filled with foul water. Disease runs rampant. Lice infest every layer of clothing, biting until your skin is raw. You scratch until you bleed, but they're impossible to get rid of. Fever spreads easily in such close quarters, and coughing is as common as breathing. Sometimes you get a letter from home, a thin scrap of normal life arriving in this pit of misery. You read it slowly, savoring every word, picturing the handwriting as though it's the voice of someone you love. If the letter carries bad news, you keep it to yourself, swallowing the ache because showing weakness here feels dangerous. Others pretend they never got letters at all, their families unable or unwilling to right back. And then comes the day you're told to go over the top. A whistle blows, and suddenly you're climbing a wooden ladder, your heart pounding so hard you can hear in your ears. The moment you break the surface of the trench, the world becomes chaos. Mud tries to suck your boots off with every step. The air is alive with the crack of rifle fire and the snap of bullets whipping past. Men fall beside you, sometimes with sound, sometimes silently, just dropping into the sludge. You push forward because stopping means dying where you stand. The ground shakes from explosions, dirt and shrapnel raining down, the shock waves rattling your teeth. Somewhere ahead is the enemy trench, but it might as well be a mile away. Whether you make it back or not feels like pure chance. When you finally return, the trench feels both familiar and alien. You're the same person, but not really. You've seen faces you'll never forget, and you've lost people whose names will haunt you. You sit in the mud, staring at your hands, wondering how many more times you'll be asked to survive the impossible. Here, in this strip of earth, you learn that a single day can feel like a lifetime, and you realize that lasting even one more would be a miracle. Night falls like a suffocating blanket, and the darkness brings its own dangers. You hear the scuttle of rats in the shadows and the distant moan of wind through the barbed wire. Somewhere above, a flare arcs into sky, bursting in a ghostly white glow that turns every shadow into a trap. For a moment, the battlefield is laid bare, and you freeze, praying you aren't the silhouette some enemy sniper has been waiting to see. Then the flare burns out, plunging you back into blackness, so complete you can't see your own hand. The cold is merciless, creeping through your coat and gnawing into your bones. You shift your weight on sentry duty, straining to hear footsteps or whispered orders, knowing that if you miss something, it could mean everyone's death. The shells don't always fall, but the silence can be worse. When the bombardment starts again, the sound is so violent it feels like the air itself is being ripped apart. You know the men around you are counting 1, 2, 3 between explosions, clinging to the rhythm as a small comfort. Then, during a brief pause, a low sound catches your ear. Not the roar of artillery, but the broken voice of a man. He's crouched against the wall of the trench, trembling uncontrollably, his eyes glazed over as if he's somewhere else entirely. Shell shock, they call it, though no one truly understands it. Some of the men whisper, "Coward." Others just look away. You know it's not fear in the ordinary sense. It's something deeper, a mind fractured by too much noise, too much death, too much everything. In this place, men are all each other has. You see it in the way they share a cigarette down to the last drag, in the way they pass around a tin of jam, as if it were a royal feast. There's an unspoken pact here. Watch my back, and I'll watch yours. Humor, no matter how dark, becomes a lifeline. Someone makes a joke about the mud being deep in the ocean, and everyone laughs. Not because it's funny, but because laughing reminds you you're still human. Sometimes, against all odds, moments of humanity slip through the cracks of war. One winter morning, rumors ripple down the trench. No shooting today. And then you see it. A soldier from the other side, cautiously stepping into no man's land with his hands raised. Before long, men from both sides are out there, shaking hands, swapping cigarettes, even kicking around a football in the frozen mud. The air is strange without gunfire. But the truce is short-lived. The next day, the rifles speak again, and the same men you joke would become targets once more. The reality here is that death is never far. You grow used to the sight of bodies, slumped in shell holes, tangled in barbed wire, or half buried in the mud. The smell is always there, a sickly sweet stench that mingles with the acrid bite of gunpowder. You stop reacting to it after a while. The mind can only flinch so many times before it goes numb. Then there's the gas. It comes without warning, a pale, creeping cloud rolling low over the ground. Someone shouts, and in an instant you're fumbling for your mask. The straps pull at your hair, the rubber clings to your face, and every breath tastes of chemicals. Those who can't get their masks on in time press urine-soaked cloths to their mouths in a desperate attempt to survive. You see men clawing at their throats, eyes streaming, coughing until they collapse. The gas doesn't just kill, it maims, blinds, and leaves lungs scarred for life. Survival here is an art. You grease your boots to keep the water out, hide precious chocolate in a tin to keep it dry, and fashion a small stove from an empty can just to warm your hands for a few minutes. You learn to eat in silence, to move without wasting energy, to sleep through the noise of distant shelling. Every little act feels like stealing time from death. When the big push comes, there's no mistaking it. The air is thick with the smell of cordite as the artillery pounds the enemy lines for hours, maybe days, before the order is given. You climb the ladder again, heart hammering, and the ground ahead is a twisted ruin of craters, wire, and shattered wood. Men fall all around, but the line moves forward, one desperate step at a time. Progress is measured not in miles, but in yards, yards bought with blood. You see friends vanish in clouds of earth thrown up by shells, and you keep going because stopping is unthinkable. By the time you stumble back to the trench, your body feels hollowed out. The faces around you are fewer, the silence heavier. An officer reads a casualty list with a voice stripped of emotion, as if these names are nothing more than numbers. The men who remain eat in silence, too tired to speak. You sit there, staring at the mud between your boots, and it hits you. This was just one day of endless cold, hunger, fear, and loss. And you realize that the men who survived this war didn't just endure it. They lived through years of days like this, one after another, with no end in sight. You think about how easily it could have been you left out there in the dark, nameless in mud, and you understand why they say most people wouldn't last even a single day here. You've seen what that day costs, and the price is more than most could bear.